yourself first. I think you can't tell when a woman hasn't been intimate for a while. The truth might surprise you. These signs aren't what you expect. When examining unexpected indicators of extended sexual drive, especially in women, it's essential to begin with a realistic understanding that most clues are subtle, indirect, and heavily influenced by individual psychology. There is no universal physical marker that can definitely point to long-term absence. Instead, the real indicators often involve shifts in behavior patterns and mood regulation, emotional processing, and personal habits. These shifts typically develop slowly and making them difficult to interpret without considering a woman's broader life context. Understanding these nuances helps separate a myth from reality and creates a more accurate, respectful picture of how prolonged periods of sexual inactivity may subtly influence daily life. One of the more overlooked indicators is the way a woman manages stress when intimacy hasn't been present for a while. Physical closeness, whether affectionate or sexual, can help regulate stress. Hormones improve emotional bonding and create a sense of groundedness when that element is absent. And some women unconsciously adjust by seeking alternative forms of emotional relief, such as increased productivity, deeper immersion, and hobbies, or stronger reliance on personal routines. These coping strategies aren't signs of distress but rather adaptive tools the mind uses to maintain equilibrium in the absence of a commonly used emotional outlet. Changes in sleep patterns can be another subtle indicator of extended sexual inactivity, not because sex itself is required for sleep, but because a physical closeness can influence a relaxation cues. When paired intimacy once provided warmth, comfort, or nighttime emotional connection, its absence can subtly affect the nervous system, and some women may take longer to fall asleep, wake up more frequently, or develop a new bedtime habit to compensate, such as prolonged scrolling, and late night reading, or mentally stimulating activities. These new behaviors often become normalized without the woman consciously linking them to her lack of intimacy. A longer spell can also influence a man's social rhythms. Through these changes typically unfold gradually. Even intimacy is a part of her routine, and much of her social energy may be shaped around a shared time with a partner or romantic interest. Without that context, she may naturally redirect her energy toward friendships, professional commitments, creative pursuits, or self development projects. The shift isn't rooted in loneliness, it reflects a rebalancing of emotional priorities as she adapts to a life pattern that no longer includes romantic or intimate involvement. Another unexpected indicator involves changes in self perception and personal confidence, and some women become more self assured during extended absence, largely because they are no longer relying on external validation from romantic interactions. This period can offer a space for reflection, introspection, and rebuilding confidence on inner foundations, and conversely, other women may experience temporary depths in self esteem if they interpret their sexual inactivity as evidence of undesirability or failed relationships. These variations highlight how personal narratives shape emotional outcomes and not the lack of sexual activity itself. Prolonged dry spells often encourage women to redefine their emotional boundaries without the distractions or emotional compromises that sometimes accompany intimacy. Many women become more discerning about about what they tolerate in relationships and social interactions. They may become less patient with inconsistency and less willing to entertain vague romantic gestures and more protective of their time. This boundary sharpening is typically a sign of emotional maturation, not frustration, and can be an empowering outcome of abstinence. Another subtle indicator is a shift in physical touch preferences. When affectionate contact is no longer part of daily life, some women gradually become less accustomed to physical closeness and may react differently to casual touch, even in non-romantic settings. Others may experience the opposite, a heightened desire for confident forms of contact like hugs or general gestures from friends or family. These responses aren't sexualized, they reflect the nervous system's adaptive relationship with touch, which plays a significant role in emotional regulation. And watch to the end to uncover these subtle indicators and subscribe for more insightful research-backed relationship content. And communication style can also evolve during extended dry spells in the absence of intimate emotional exchanges. Some women may adopt a more relational, concise, or structured way of expressing themselves. Others may become more introspective, choosing to share their thoughts selectively or focusing more on inner dialogue than external conversations. These changes are less about withdrawal and more about adaptation as the emotional landscape shifts in response to the quieting of intimate dynamics. One of the more surprising indicators is increased focus on personal productivity. Without the emotional bandwidth dedicated to romantic or intimate relationships, women often find themselves pouring more energy into work, creative projects, academic pursuits, or long-term goals. Productivity becomes a natural outlet for emotional intensity, allowing them to channel their energy into achievements rather than in personal dynamics. The boost in output can be dramatic, especially during extended dry spells. Routine shifts are another subtle sign. When intimacy is a part of a woman's life, certain routines like shared meals and weekend plans or bedtime ritual tend to form around relationship dynamics. During her line abstinence, this routine naturally recognize a woman may spend more evening alone, develop new habits around self-care, refine her schedule for efficiency, or eliminate rituals that no longer serve a functional purpose. These changes are rarely intentional but gradually reshape the rhythm of daily life. A woman's relationship with her own body can shift significantly when she hasn't been physically intimate for a long time. Some women become more attuned to bodily sensations, tension levels, or stress cues because their typical physical interactions that provided feedback are no longer present. Others may detach slightly from bodily awareness, focusing more on cognitive tasks and less on physical experiences. Both reactions are psychological adaptations rather than signs of desire. Extended dry spells can subtly influence motivation levels. When intimacy is a recurring part of life, it naturally reinforces positive emotions through neurochemical reward mechanisms. In the absence of these stimuli, some women experience a short-term depth and enthusiasm or delight until they build a develops through accomplishments, hobbies, or social successes. This recalibration is a part of the brain's normal adaptation process. Women who experience a long period without intimacy often develop a new emotional independence. They may rely more on inner resources for reassurance, problem solving, and emotional regulation. This strengthened independence can manifest as increased resilience, sharper decision making, or a more grounded sense of identity. The absence of intimate dynamics creates a quieter emotional environment in which self-sufficiency has room to grow. Creativity frequently rises during a long-dry spells. Emotional intensity that once flowed into romantic or intimate experiences often gets redirected into creative expression. Writing, art, music, interior design, or problem solving. The subconscious mind seeks outlets for emotional depth, and creativity becomes a natural channel. This is why many women report bursts of artistic energy during extended periods of abstinence. Women may also experience shocks and emotional tolerance without the outgoing emotional stimulation of intimacy. Their patience for small persuasions may decrease temporarily, or they may set firmer limits on what they consider draining interaction. Alternatively, some women become more even-tempered because they have fewer interpersonal stressors in their immediate environment. These variations depend heavily on personality and coping style. Social energy can fluctuate dramatically during a long dry spells. Some women become more socially engaged, seeking connection through friendships rather than romance. Others may withdraw slightly, preferring solitude as they recalibrate their emotional landscape. Both patterns are legitimate adaptive responses and don't necessarily indicate loneliness or dissatisfaction. Hidden focus on long-term goals is another unexpected indicator when intimacy and relationship maintenance are removed from the emotional equation, and many women find themselves thinking more clearly about career aspirations, educational pursuits, financial planning, or personal development. The absence of relationship-oriented distractions often creates a space for strategic thinking. Women may develop stronger personal standards during prolonged sexual inactivity, with more emotional distance from dating and romantic dynamics. They often reassess what they truly value and potential partners or relationships. This shift can lead to more selective dating, clearer boundaries, and a higher threshold for emotional investment. And risk tolerance can decline during extended dry spells without the emotional adrenaline that sometimes accompanies romance or attraction. Women may become more cautious and less spontaneous, or more deliberate in their social choices. This increase in caution is often a protective mechanism that develops naturally over time. A woman's inner narrative about relationship may evolve significantly during a long period without intimacy. She may question past patterns, reconsider old beliefs, or redefine what intimacy means to her. This introspective period can be transformative, leading to more grounded expectations and healthier relationship choices moving forward. Some women experience a shift in how they prioritize emotional labor without the ongoing energy demands of romantic involvement. They may feel more protective of their time and mental bandwidths. This can manifest as a reduced tolerance for emotionally demanding friendships, clearer boundaries, or a stronger focus on personal well-being. Knowing the right space can also influence how a woman interprets attention from others. She may become more analytical, evaluating intentions more carefully rather than responding impulsively. Alternatively, she may become indifferent to superficial gestures because her emotional focus has shifted inward rather than outward. Decision making often becomes more pragmatic during extended abstinence without the emotional complexity that a romantic involvement brings. Women may find it easier to make clear and logical decisions about their personal life, career, finances, or long-term goals. The absence of emotional noise allows for cleaner and manual processing. Women may redirect their emotional energy toward skill building during a line the right spouse, whether it's learning a new language, mastering a craft, completing certifications, or improving physical fitness. These pursuits often flourish when the emotional space typically occupied by intimacy is repurposed for growth. A woman's expectations of intimacy can shift as well without recent experiences shaping their perspective. Some women may idealize emotional closeness while others may become more realistic and grounded. This recalibration influences how they approach future relationships. Extended abstinence can increase self-awareness without the distractions of romantic pursuit or emotional turbulence. Women often gain clearer insight into their habits, triggers, goals, values. This heightened self-awareness positions them for healthier relationships in the future. Many women experience a shift in emotional triggers without ongoing romantic involvement. They may become less reactive to flirtation, relationship-related content, or emotional situations. Their inner emotional environment becomes quieter, making them more selective about what stimulates them. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to subscribe. Another unexpected indicator is deeper engagement with intellectual content. Women may gravitate toward blogs, documentaries, analytical discussions, or personal research as a way to occupy emotional and mental space that is no longer consumed by intimacy-related concerns. And some women adopt a more structured lifestyle during long-dry spells. They may adhere more strictly to schedules, routines, self-care plans, or productivity systems because they're managing their emotional world through organization rather than interpersonal connection. Emotional neutrality may increase without the highs and lows of romantic or intimate dynamics. Many women find themselves maintaining a more stable emotional baseline. This neutrality is often mistaken detachment, but is actually a sign of psychological recalibration. During extended abstinence, women often place greater emphasis on friendships. These platonic connections become stronger, more intentional, and more emotionally fulfilling because they serve as the primary social anchors in the absence of romantic involvement. Women may become more future-oriented during prolonged sexual inactivity. They may think more about long-term compatibility, relationship quality, or personal goals rather than seeking short-term emotional gratification. Physical routines often change as well. Some women engage more in exercise, yoga, or wellness activities, not as a compensation but as a way to regulate emotions and maintain physical confidence independently of intimacy. There can also be an increase in emotional self-sufficiency. Women become more accustomed to solving problems alone, regulating their own mood, and creating satisfaction from inner rather than external sources. This shift often becomes lasting personality enhancement. Extended dry spells often lead to a redefinition of personal priorities without the emotional demands of intimacy. Women reassess what matters most: mental health, career direction, emotional stability, creative fulfillment, or meaningful relationships, reorganize their life accordingly. This period of abstinence becomes less about what is missing and more about what is being built internally. Another meaningful indicator connected with prolonged sexual inactivity is the way women recalibrate their emotional expectations from others. When intimacy is absent for an extended period, the emotional fluctuations are commonly tied to romance, anticipation, vulnerability, disappointment, euphoria, insecurity tend to quiet down, and this creates a sort of emotional buffer that allows women to evaluate people's actions without the influence of romantic tension or physical chemistry. As a result, they often become more observant of patterns, more aware of inconsistencies, and more skilled at predicting the emotional reliability of others. As a sharpened discernment isn't a byproduct of fascination but a reflection of mental clarity that emerges when emotional investments are minimal and motivation to impress or be impressed is reduced. Extended dry spells can also reshape a woman's relationship with her personal environment without the unpredictability or emotional turbulence that romantic involvement sometimes introduces. Many women refine their physical space to reflect their inner stability. This can involve reorganizing their home, improving aesthetics, creating a more functional workspaces, or adopting a new self-care ritual that center around comfort and emotional regulation. These environmental shifts often go unnoticed by outsiders, yet they're significant indicators of how inner states align with external behavior. During periods of sexual inactivity, a woman's home becomes not just a living space but a stabilizing ecosystem that mirrors her recalibrated emotional landscape. An area rarely discussed is how long dry spells can heighten a woman's introspective tendencies without the emotional noise that accompanies intimacy, planning, negotiating, bonding, conflict resolution, or romantic expectations. Many women experience an increase in inner dialogue. The introspection may lead them to examine past relationship patterns, re-evaluate their attachment styles, or confront personal narratives that previously remained unchallenged. Over time, this introspective depth can generate emotional maturity, clearer personal boundaries, and a more nuanced understanding of what they genuinely require in a healthy relationship rather than being a sign of emotional withdrawal. This inner focus is often a strategic repositioning that strengthens a future relational choices. Another subtle indicator rises in how women approach future planning during extended abstinence. When the emotional and mental demands of intimacy are absent, long-term strategic thinking becomes easier. Women may find themselves investing more energy into financial planning, career development, educational advancement, or health optimization. Shift isn't because the cognitive load associated with intimacy, its joys, complexities, and unpredictability is temporarily paused. The reprieve opens bandwidths for forward-looking decisions that require long surges of focused attention. As a result, many women emerge from their spells with a clearer life direction and more structured goals. Lastly, borderline sexual inactivity can influence how women interpret their own emotional needs without the immediate reinforcement of intimacy. The deeper layers of emotional nourishment, security, companionship, validation, and mutual support become easier to distinguish. Women often gain a clearer sense of which emotional needs are essential, which are superficial, and which they can fulfill independently. This inner sorting process can lead to profound personal clarity, enabling them to set higher standards for future relationships, reject dynamics that don't serve their well-being, and cultivate a more stable sense of self. Far from being a negative experience, this recalibration can fundamentally strengthen emotional resilience and redefine what intimacy means on a personal level. Thank you for watching. See you in a new video.